This is the Phoenix mind, where the fire refines, break the chains and rise to shine. Rise stronger, lead with heart, every end a brand new start. With Lisa Manzo, we transform, we ignite. This is a Phoenix mind.
Hi, I'm Lisa Manzo. Welcome to the Phoenix Mind podcast, where we have the real talk, the messy, the meaningful, the transformational, the rise from the ashes moments, and we lead with emotional intelligence. And today, my special guest is Jessi McAnelly, and I'm going to read you a little bit about her. How would you change? Jessi wants to know, how would you change your life if you could close all the open tabs in your mind and finally hear your own inner voice? That's what Jessi McAnelly helps you do. Former analysis-paralysis overthinker, now she guides big dreamers caught in self-doubt into self-confidence and action. Jessi is a board-certified hypnotherapist and founder of Moon Hypnosis. Welcome, Jessi. Thank you for coming on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here too, because I was reading your story because you were so kind enough to tell it to me in writing. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for her to tell it. So I'm going to let you tell your story of how you've gotten to be where you are and why you do what you do. And please, in like 3 to 4 minutes, tell my audience your story.
Yeah. So I know what it's like to be stuck in that moment where life throws you curveballs and options, and you just don't know what to do, right? And I remember, I guess it was about 5 years ago now, I was in sort of a dead-end relationship. We did a lot of drinking and cocaine together, and that was kind of what the glue that was sort of keeping us together, right? And I remember I had that literal mirror moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw how bloated I was, how I kind of looked like for lack of a better phrase, like dead behind the eyes. You know, there wasn't that spark. There was just this sort of listlessness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I saw myself in the mirror and I went, who is that? Literally had that moment. And I realized at that moment, like, if I'm going to get myself out of feeling this tired, this terrible, am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Yeah, go right ahead.
This shitty every day, waking up feeling this terrible. Nobody else is going to do it but me, right?
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I started to take back control of my life. It was later that day when my partner at the time showed up with flowers, and I was like, this seems off. Do you know that feeling when something just feels kind of off? Like, this doesn't feel like it's being done out of love. This feels...
The flowers were off. They were like...
Yeah, the flowers were off.
A guilt present.
A guilt present, right. And then he wanted to get another gram of cocaine. And I was like, yeah, I just don't want to do this anymore. And I left that night. And what that sparked was the change of my entire life. And I don't mean just quitting drinking or doing cocaine. It was, I really started to notice the way I saw the world and how distorted it actually was. And over the next, I mean, it's still a work in progress, because it's always a work in progress, right?
But your vision was distorted, right?
Yeah.
Your vision of the world. So in what way?
Absolutely.
Tell us more about that. That's interesting.
I mean, I sort of approached life in the way of, like, I felt like I was always putting out fires. You know what I mean? Like, always needing to be rescued, always needing help, or, feeling anxious about everything. Couldn't make a decision without asking 12 different people. Like, I just didn't believe in myself, like my own ability to choose things that were good for my life, because hello, all of my decisions were not looking so good, right? But I think what I realized is I was making decisions from a place of, like, fear. And I know that sounds cliche, but kind of making decisions running away rather than running towards something good, right? Running away from that bad thing and then finding myself in another negative situation, or running away from this bad thing and then finding myself sort of in the same place 3 months, 6 months, a year later, right?
Isn't that interesting? I mean, I find it interesting. I think it's because I've done the same thing. I'm like, oh, I've just recreated this all over again, just with different people, and this really has to stop. But keep going. I mean, because people do that.
Yeah. And I think I realized, and this has actually been more of a recent realization, go in rooms where you're celebrated. Like, why keep going back to the places where you're cut down or minimized or dismissed? And many of us who grew up in kind of environments like that, right? Where our big dreams were cut down. You can't get too tall or you're going to make the rest of us look short, right?
Yeah.
I continuously learn, like, that is probably not a place, a room I want to be in, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that became really important because a little over a year ago, I lost my little brother, and we grew up together. We grew up in the same environment. He made very different choices than I did, and he actually died in prison. And it was a moment for me where my grief was so immense, right? That other things just kind of became unimportant. Like, any negativity on top of that was just like, and so my world became very small for a while. And weirdly, it was like one of the weirdest, best things to happen to me, because out of that, I became even more focused on what is it that actually lights me up? What are those rooms I really enjoy being in? And I got back into kind of some of my spiritual practices. I keep an altar, and I got back into, even self-hypnosis and things that I had kind of let go to the wayside, getting distracted by life things, right? And I just started that practice again. Shortly after my brother passed away, I ended a relationship because I'm like, this isn't meeting me in my grief, right? This isn't it, and it's not even so much, does this serve me? More so, is this actually meeting me with full presence and resonance where I am right now? And that became pretty clear pretty easily. And so, like, basically, long story short, experiencing grief like that made me realize a lot of shit that we focus our attention on, like people pleasing or getting people to like us, or trying to convince others that we're worth time and attention. It's just not worth it. And since then, I've been kind of on that journey of, well, what rooms do I belong in? And earlier this year, got serious about, like, kind of speaking about things that I saw to be true on TikTok, and I started getting a following. And it's interesting that when you start telling your truth, it's kind of polarizing. It's kind of polarizing.
Oh, it absolutely is. And then, so let's talk about telling your truth, because this is a great thing. Because when I started telling my truth, oh, did I get pushback? How about you?
It's uncomfortable.
I got pushback from the people closest to me. And I have to tell you, somebody in my family, I had done a video on Facebook because I'm okay with being vulnerable. Totally okay with it. It's one of my superpowers. It's why people talk to me, because I was doing a video. I was very unhappy this day, and I was crying, and I did a video crying on my video, and I was just like, and I know this will pass, and tomorrow I'll be a really happy person, and please make sure you come back tomorrow because I won't be crying. and I won't be crying. And somebody in my family called me up and I got the judgment that I shouldn't be doing that on the internet. And this was about 4 or 5 years ago. So, and I retreated because that was the me I used to retreat. And now, like with this podcast, I'm sure I'm going to get lots of that, and I'm ready because I already know. I already have experienced it, and I know, and I want to hear your version of that. What happened to you with your people?
Let's see. When I started talking about my brother who was in prison, someone in my family was like, "You can't talk about that. You can't talk about that." Oh, and I recognize that this person was afraid to share that story because of the judgment they might receive, and yet they were like projecting that judgment onto me. And so I kind of came at it compassionately, but at the same time I said, I'm going to tell my story because it's my story, right? And she and I ended up having actually a tearful moment because of her involvement in the whole thing. She was like, nobody recognized what I went through in all of that. And I'm like, you're right, nobody did. And then we just like cried together. So it ended up being a moment of compassionate connection, actually. I get hate comments on my TikTok videos occasionally, or comments about my appearance. And I either like, I'll make a joke about it, like not a dismissive joke, but like, thanks for the engagement. You're helping me reach more people,
Like that's the reality of it, right? They are helping you in some way, even though they're spewing hate towards you. But that's great. You have a great outlook on it. What else happens?
The other thing I've noticed too is creating content. So I saw somebody make this TikTok video and it really hit me. They're like, if you're an anxious or self-conscious person, creating content is like exposure therapy.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because eventually you get kind of numb to the comments people make, right? And if you keep pushing through it, and I noticed when I started on YouTube, there's like a group of people out there who are lonely, sitting behind their keyboards or their phones, and they see, oh, there's like 12 views on this video. Let me go mess with this person. There are people out there who literally do that. And you know what? They're not out there creating or doing anything good. They're wasting their life doing that. And I think of that every time. Like, wow, their life must be so boring for them to be spending their time doing this.
Yeah, you have a great outlook on it. So you're on TikTok, and so you do content about life and helping people. And I see also a I can't speak. Hypnotist, and him as well. And I love that. And people are like, you can't hypnotize me. I'm like, yeah, if you don't want me to, no, I can't. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And so have you found great success with it? With the hypnosis?
Oh yeah. I mean, hypnosis is the whole reason everything that I did in my life changed. I saw a hypnotist to help me walk away from cocaine, and it worked. Like I had already quit, but like I was still thinking about it, right? I was still had that tug. Oh, I kind of miss it. I kind of wish I still had that crutch in my life. And the hypnotist helped me just kind of erase those feelings.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then I've used hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming, which is like, we're getting technical here, but it's kind of where hypnosis came from. And it's basically the way you talk about your problems is the way you experience your problems, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And rather than seeing my problems as, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Your brain is going to search for the answer to why is this happening to me and keep confirming to you. It's going to look for all the reasons that's happening to you. And so I started to ask better questions.
Yes, right? It's important. Ask better questions. What else can I do? What questions did you ask?
How can I make my life different? I started simply, how can I, even like the smallest, tiniest thought, how can I think about this differently? And then my brain goes, let's look for ways to think about this differently. Almost instantly. You can almost change it in an instant, right?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that, and I'm also I'm a master practitioner of NLP and neuro linguistic programming, so I totally get it. Your words matter, and I still have a job, and I don't. I've this has come up previously on the podcast, and I'm sure it's going to come up again. I don't let people talk negatively about themselves when they're in my company.
yep, yep,
I was like, because
yep.
it's a self-fulfilling prophecies, and I'm just not interested in that. Especially the really good people that are saying, "Oh, I'm so dumb." No, you're not dumb. You aren't. You made a mistake. That's not who you are. You did something incorrectly. You'll do better next time, right?
Yep. Well, and when you're telling yourself you're dumb, your nervous system is going to look for ways to confirm it,
Yes.
right? Like if you tell yourself you're clumsy, you're going to keep tripping. But if you tell yourself, I am aware of the spaces I enter, I am aware of the where I step my feet, I'm aware of my space around me, you're going to become more conscious of your space around you, and you're going to stop tripping or being clumsy, right? It's just a matter of how you like. Or rather, you can start even like less affirmation-y and go, I'm becoming more aware of the space around me, right?
I It's so funny because I'm laughing because I was an extremely clumsy child. Okay. And looking back as a child, the only time I ever got in tension was if I fell or got hurt. So I
Yep.
was always falling and always getting hurt. And then I met a mentor, and I walked into his house, and they were having to sign a release, I said, "Oh, too late, I already fell." And just joking about it. I didn't actually fall. I tripped going in the door, and he says, "That's hypnosis. You can
Yep.
change that." That was the day that changed. I stopped getting hurt that day. That
Mm-hmm.
It was instant because somebody made me aware of it. Isn't that so interesting? You really need to become aware of these things, and it is instantly. So what else have you changed?
Um, I have changed. Okay, so I went from being broke all the time to now I live in a beautiful 2 bedroom apartment. This isn't a like brag. This is like something I'm really proud of. Like I live in a beautiful 2 bedroom apartment next to a park, next to a lake. Like this is amazing. I did this where, 5-10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, that's an impossibility for me. Right. And now I'm realizing if I set my mind to do something, it's not even, I have to talk myself into it. Again, I ask better questions. How can I get there? And since then, now I also have learned how to swing trade the stock market. And so over time, I'm building that as well. And let's see, I mean, all kinds of things. It's really just like whatever you need your brain for, like figuring out a problem, right? Figuring out a challenge. Um, Kind of when you stop wasting that mental energy on stuff you can't solve and
Right.
move on to things that you can.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, it makes life so much easier. Life is so much better.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. That's yeah. So let's talk about patterns because
Yeah.
so and I'm a mom, so I'm gonna go from this way. Like I'll look at some of the patterns the generational patterns, or there's other terminology for it, but this is what's coming to my head right now. Generational patterns that I was able to break. And then I look at the ones, oh, I didn't break that one yet. Okay. So then I say to myself, well, how can I break these patterns? Because I need to do something different and I want to do something different. So let me figure this out. So talk about patterns for you. Because you told me briefly that, you had self-awareness and then you understood your patterns. So let's talk about some of the stuff you change and how you change it.
Ooh, do I get into something very deep today? How deep do we want to go?
That's up to
I
you.
I had a recent experience.
Oh, I like
I'm gonna
recent.
take a sip of water. There was a story I lived with my whole life. My mom is probably not going to like that I'm going to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Um, there was a story I lived with my whole life, and that was your biological father said he would marry me if I got an abortion.
Oh my God.
That was a story I lived with my whole life. So you can imagine how that played out in all of my relationships with men over time,
Oh,
right?
I
Uh,
can't imagine again.
over and over and over again, that either long distance or missing partners or um, uh, unavailable partners, right? That pattern of almost but not quite, the carrot on a stick that but never the prize, right? And that repeated over and over again. And then I did an ancestry DNA test recently and figured out who my father was. And it turns out he had no idea I existed, and that story was a complete lie.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
And in an instant, I realized I had been living by that story my entire life. And in an instant, and it's not even that the story being different changed me. Like, it wasn't the information itself, it wasn't the facts itself that this person was not it was that the story shifted in an instant when I realized it was wrong. And how many times do we do that in our lives, where we tell ourselves one story, like, oh, I'm just an anxious person, or oh, I'm just everyone in my family is an alcoholic. That may be true, or it may be a small sample size. Like,
Yeah.
maybe not everyone in your bloodline actually is an alcoholic, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the stories we tell ourselves that keep us chained to the old cage, right?
Yeah.
And that was the first story that came to mind, because it's been so recent. It's been like this big revelation for me. And I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with that person, but it doesn't really matter. What mattered was holy shit. I realized an identity shift in an
Yeah.
instant, right? It was like, oh, I had been acting out in a way because I believed something to be true about me, that I wasn't wanted, that,
Oh
I
yeah.
wasn't, uh, I was an accident.
You weren't wanted, it was like that's so mind blowing. And that's so mind blowing to me because in turn, if my mom would lie because she was uncomfortable with this subject, okay?
Yep.
If she didn't know how to explain something, or she was made her uncomfortable, she would just lie to get it. And I'll give you an example. So she used to send me the store to get her birth control pills, and I never asked what they were. And one day I said, "Hey, what are these for?" Right? And she said, "Oh, they're vitamins." Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
Now let's fast forward 6 years later, and I get my first pack of birth control pills, and I'm like, those aren't vitamins, because I remembered what they look like. I knew what they looked like. I'm like, oh, she lied.
Yep.
And what else? And then it goes to, what else did she lie about? What
Yep.
else? And I understand that it came from not being able to, not having the skills to have the conversation, yet it still affected me. Just
Yeah.
like that affected you, for whatever her reason was for telling
Right.
that story. It doesn't really matter what the reason was, it still affected your whole life.
Right. And I have learned through my experience with working with people, but also in myself and my own self journey, and in observing people as a whole, we lie because we feel ashamed of ourselves. Like, if we didn't feel ashamed of that thing that we're trying to hide, there's no reason we would lie, right? And it's learned pretty early. You lie, you don't get in trouble.
And,
Right?
sad but true.
Yeah.
Sad
Yeah.
but true.
There's always an unconscious benefit to a choice that we make, right?
Yeah.
Good, negative, or positive. So, when we hide parts of ourselves, it's always because we're afraid of the ramifications of sharing that truth, right? Just like we've talked about, like, like, what are the ramifications if I say, those are birth control pills, then my daughter is probably going to have questions about birth control pills,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
What are your, makes her have questions in her mind, and I don't want to have that conversation, right? So it's easier to say it's vitamins than it is to tell the truth.
And so here's the gift from that, because I believe there's a gift in almost everything. Like, sorry to say that your brother dying was a gift for you, because it helped you. It helped you.
It did. It absolutely did. I thank him, actually.
Yeah. And so the gift for me and her lying was to never lie to my children about that stuff. And so I've had conversations with them, and I'm like, you don't need to know that information right now. You're a little bit young for that information. And we can discuss it again. I'm not telling you no. I'll give you a generic explanation, a very basic explanation. If you have more questions, ask. And I want you also to know that there is more to this than what I'm explaining. I'm giving you a very simplified explanation. So I was able to break that cycle for my children because of what happened. So there was a gift there. So I break the generational cycle in that moment. And your brother, I mean, I'm sorry that he died, and yet here you are and helping other people because he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I hadn't experienced so much negativity as a child and growing up, I would not be, and I'm not like all rainbow sunshine positivity at all. I just see things in better perspective, and I don't know I would have had this like not even ambition, but like this like drive to be like, oh my God, I discovered like how changing how I look at something or feel something or experience something, changing my story around it, right, is how I can get out of the suffering of whatever the problem is. And it just becomes a puzzle to solve rather than a problem that I'm very emotionally attached to, right? Like, and so if I hadn't experienced all the negativity I did growing up, some of the stuff that I experienced growing up, I don't know that I would have had the same. It's almost like a slingshot, right? Like the stuff that we go through pulls us back a little bit to, if we allow it, to slingshot us forward into the next part of our lives and into the next level of our lives, right? And as I've gotten older, every time I go through a breakup or something in my life ends, it can be a really fabulous thing rather than a sad thing. Like, oh, I'm one step closer to this experience I want to be having. And then it reconnects me with myself. And, everything in our lives, my friend reminded me the other day of the Taoist parable of the farmer and the horse. And the farmer has this horse, and the horse dies, and everybody goes, oh no, your horse died. And he goes, well, I guess this will help me get back into the basics. And then like something good happens to him. He gets another horse, and they're like, oh, this is great, you got another horse. And he goes, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's cool.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So having that sort of like ability to digest our life experiences and turn them into nourishment, I think has been like the biggest aha for me.
I like what you just said. That was so profound. Taking our life experiences and turning it into nourishment.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, all kinds of shitty things happen to everyone. Like
Right.
life is unexpected, and we cannot predict any of it, really. Not I mean, we can try to control our lives with predictability. Yeah, of course. But life is going to throw unpredictable things at us. And I guess it's really about like resilience. Like, how do you digest those unexpected experiences? It can either be poison or it can be nourishment.
Right.
Like, And yeah, that's a big thing. Yep.
Wow, that's interesting. I just love the way you phrase that. That was awesome. This is going to be my audience is going to love that.
Yay.
I have two more questions for you. We've talked a lot about a lot of things and a lot of tools. So if somebody's struggling, either if you want to repeat something or say something new, if somebody's struggling with something or some everyday piece of advice that you were given by somebody that you'd like to share with the audience, so in a time of need that they could think about, what would you like to share?
My friend and I were talking the other day about this. And you know how we tend to like overthink things or over rationalize things?
Yes.
The biggest piece of advice I'm going to give your audience, because this was so profound for me, your brain is not your compass. Your brain is there to help you solve puzzles and challenges. It's there to help you figure out the how, not the what or the if. And it's your inner compass, your feelings, your inner experience that tells you where you're supposed to go. And I don't mean that it's like it's where you feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable for a reason, right?
Yeah.
If you feel stressed out, you feel stressed out for a reason. It's not just happening to you. You're meant to listen to that. And your brain isn't the point out. It isn't the thing that tells you how to get out of uncomfortable feelings. Those uncomfortable feelings are telling you something. So that's my biggest piece of advice, because I thought that was so profound. Like we tend to rationalize things, right?
Oh, absolutely. So Jessi, when people want to get in touch with you or learn more from you, how can they do that?
Sure. You can go to my website, moonhypnosis.com. That's MOON hypnosis.com. And I have all kinds of like free recordings for various issues you might have going on. So you're welcome to have a look at my website and find them.
Oh, I'm gonna go look. I'm writing it down so I can go look. Right. Well, this has been our episode of the Phoenix Mind podcast. Again, I'm Lisa Manzo. This is where we do the real talk. We talk through the messy, the meaningful, the transformational, rise from the ashes, and through emotional intelligence. And I will see you on the next episode.
This is the Phoenix Mind, where the fire refines. Together we rise, transform our lives. So subscribe, share the